If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is for those who want to use the Salamanders to punch things in the face. 10th edition for the Space Marines seems to be the Terminator edition. Our Firestorm Assault Force Detachment does not do much to help the Terminators punch better. Crucible of Battle for 1 CP for +1 to the wound is about it. Gladius has some good jack-of-all-trade rules that can really help a melee-heavy Salamanders list. So let's take a look at my Meleemanders list. This is a Gladius Task Force list. It comes to 2,000 points, and I've named this one the Meleemanders. Our Warlord is Vulkan Histan. For our other characters, we do have Adrax Agatone, a Captain in Terminator armor with the Adept of the Codex enhancement, a Chaplain in Terminator armor with the Artificer armor enhancement. Our last character is a Judiciar with the Honor Vehement enhancement. For my battle line, I do have a big 10-man unit of Assault Intercessors with 1 plasma pistol and a Thunder Hammer in that unit. For my other data sheets, I do have 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, a 6-man unit of Bladeguard veterans, a 10-man unit of Infernus squads, 2 5-scope squad units, a 5-man Infiltrator Squad with the Helix Gauntlet to hold on to my home objective. For my Terminators, I do have a 5-man Assault Squad with Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields. Finally, a big 10-man unit of Terminators with 2 missile launchers and 2 chain fists in that 10-man unit. And that's my Meleemanders list. It comes to 2,000 points. Let's move on to the unit breakdown. The Salamanders are a non-divergent chapter. With Oath of Moment, we will get to reroll our hits and also have that +1 to the wound roll. We can activate these combat doctrines to give us some buffs for that turn. Devastator Doctrine to allow our army to advance and shoot. Tactical Doctrine to allow us to fall back, shoot and charge. Finally, Assault Doctrine to allow our entire army to advance and charge. The Gladius Task Force actually has a lot more stratagems that can help a melee-heavy list than I had first thought. Once I took a look at these from the melee list point of view, I noticed only one of the 6 stratagems would not really help a melee unit. I expected 3, maybe 4, but honestly 5 of the stratagems will make this Meleemanders list much stronger. Not to mention the enhancements I've put on my characters will buff the overall melee potential of the army as well. Storm of Fire for 1 CP is the only stratagem I can't really use to help a melee heavy list. It can help the limited shooting that I have, but it's not going to upgrade my melee threat potential. There are a few stratagems that we'll be using on any of these units. Armor of Content to give us that -1 AP to incoming attacks, Squad Tactics, and Adaptive Strategy. These are the stratagems that can be used on any of these units to buff the overall survivability. Adaptive Strategy allows us to use one of the tactical doctrines for a unit, even if that tactical doctrine has already been used. It can give a unit fall back and charge, advance and charge. We could use advance and shoot. It is not as useful with this list. Next up, we have Honor the Chapter and Only in Death Does Duty End. These 2 stratagems will be more situational. Only in Death Does Duty End is a no dice roll fight on death, but it is an expensive 2 CP. The unit being attacked will make a big difference if we want to use this stratagem or not. Honor the Chapter for +1 to the wound in melee with a possible +1 AP in the Assault Doctrine. It will really make a difference with what unit we are using to attack with as well as what we are attacking. Vehicles and other tough units, we may need that +1 to the wound. Infantry and other low toughness enemy units, we may want to save the CP. Armor of Content, Squad Tactics, Adaptive Strategy, Only in Depth Does Duty End, and Honor the Chapter are the 5 stratagems we can use to really help this Meleemanders list. We will start the unit breakdown with our Warlord, Vulkan Histan, and his 10 Infernus Marines. Vulkan does not buff the unit more than some extra melee and OC when attached to an Infernus squad. He does have 2 abilities that do buff the Infernus squad though. We could run Vulkan with some company heroes. Either way, I want Vulkan in our list. The Forge Father ability gives any Torrent and Melta weapons reroll wounds into 1 enemy target, and that is army-wide. Taking him in the list also gives the Infernus squad an extra OC per model, taking them up to OC2 each. The combat doctrines, any one of these doctrines can be useful for the Infernus squad. Advance and charge will be less useful. Vulkan does have a decent profile for taking out medium infantry in combat. The Infernus melee attacks are light infantry killers at best. Advance and shoot is always good on a mid-range weapon to help them get into the Power Blaster's 12-inch range. Fallback, shoot and charge is good for the obvious fallback from a dangerous melee unit. It also stops our opponent from consolidating into our Infernus squad to tie them up. Storm of Fire for 1 CP. This is a situational but potent stratagem for the Infernus squad. The only time we want to use this stratagem though on the Infernus squad is in the Devastator Doctrine. The Pyroblasters already ignore cover, we want that extra AP 1. This way we have a D6, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 1 ignores cover Flamer into the Oath of Moment target that is +1 to the wound. Throw in Vulkan's Forge Father ability to reroll the wounds. It is barbecue time. Vulkan's other ability allows us to pick an objective in no man's land. When we get Vulkan on that objective, he will have an OC of 10 and a 4+ Feel No Pain, so it makes Vulkan very tanky, and Vulkan attached to a 10-man Infernus squad will bring that up to a total of 30 OC. 10 for Vulkan and 2 OC for each one of these Infernus squad, so that is a total of 30 OC. A hard unit to shift and a hard unit to get close to since we have all these flamers that we can overwatch with. I wanted to try something different than the normal Adrax with 6 Bladeguard. Adrax with 10 Assault Intercessors has a better light infantry horde clearing potential than the Bladeguard. The unit excluding Adrax will have 40 attacks. The Assault Intercessors have reroll wounds when attacking units on objectives or rerolled ones if not. Adrax will give this big 10-man unit reroll wounds no matter where the unit is. There are a few standout stratagems in the Gladius Task Force for this unit. A total OC of 21, along with Adrax's ability to half the OC of enemy units within engagement range. The unit is going to be in my primary role, not as an objective holder, instead as an objective taker. Let the Infernus unit and the 5-man Terminator unit actually hold the objectives. Not the best target for only in Death Does Duty N for 2 CP. Adrax cannot reduce the cost. It could be useful if being attacked by another large unit of light to medium infantry, such as 10 Khorne Berserkers, possibly even 20 Khorne Berserkers. Yuck. Honor the Chapter for 1 CP on the other hand is very good. Most of the unit's 40 attacks are Strength 4, AP 1, Damage 1 attacks. Honor the Chapter will give the unit's melee weapons the Lance ability. They will have +1 to the wound roll if they've charged that turn. Although now I'm thinking about it, it may be a few less since we do have that Thunder Hammer. Either way, it's close to 40 attacks at Strength 4 with +1 to the wound isn't so bad. Use this in the Tactical Doctrine to have those chainswords up to AP 2. Throw this into the Oath of Moment target. The entire unit will have reroll hits, reroll wounds, and the Oath will give them +1 to the wound roll without using any stratagems. Not the normal 6 Bladeguard, but the 10 Assault Intercessors should be a fun unit to use on the board. Next up, we have the Captain and Terminator with 10 Terminators. This unit was the base list idea. I had finished painting up 10 of the new 10th edition Terminators. I wanted to use them, but I felt they really did not fit any balanced shooting Salamanders list in the Firestorm Assault Force. I decided why not try a melee heavy list to try them out. I played a few practice games. While not breaking the meta, it did better than I thought it would. 10 Terminators and Gladius is the definition of wanting to punch some faces. 24 Power Fist and 6 Chain Fist attacks from the unit alone is dangerous. Into the Oath of Moment target, they get scary good. They have their ability Fury of the First. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets your Oath of Moment target, add 1 to the hit roll. Now all of those attacks are hitting on a 2+, reroll hits with +1 to the wound from the Oath of Moment. The Terminator Captain has a few things to buff the potential of the 10 Terminators he's attached to. The Adept of the Codex enhancement to always have access to fallback, shoot and charge. It makes trying to tie these up with chaff and other units almost impossible. His 2 abilities can be very useful. The Imperium Sword, you can re-roll charge rolls made for this model's unit, and Rites of Battle, reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1 CP once per battle round. Rites of Battle being very useful for certain stratagems. Only in Death Does Duty N comes to mind, being able to reduce that from 2 CP down to 1 CP. Any of the 5 mentioned stratagems could be a good target for Rites of Battle. Armor of Contempt or Honor the Chapter for 0 CP is strong. Use this to reduce the expensive 2 CP only in Death Does Duty N to a more manageable 1 CP. 1 CP for any model out of this big 10-man unit to fight on death is CP well spent. They are getting to punch in faces either way. If they die, they get to punch a face. If not, they still get to punch some faces. An expensive unit in points, but a fun unit in the Gladius Task Force. Next up is our Chaplain and Terminator armor with the 5 Assault Terminators. I wanted to try out some Assault Terminators in a list, kit bash some proxy models to make a custom 5-man Terminator assault unit. I have them all equipped with Thunderhammer and Storm Shields adding +1 to the wound, taking them up to 4 wounds per model. Armor of Contempt on these will make our opponent sad. The Thunderhammers are Strength 8, AP 2, Damage 2 with devastating wounds. The downside is they only hit on a 4+. They will really depend on Oath of Moment to hit the broadside of a burn. What about our Chaplain and Terminator armor? His abilities, Recitation of Faith. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have a 4+ Funeral Pain against mortal wounds, an ability that makes killing these 4 wound models even harder. Litany of Hate. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. An ability that does not rely on Oath of Moment or Honor the Chapter to get +1 to the wound in combat. Combined with devastating wounds, the Assault Terminators can threaten vehicle and monster units. Next is the Judiciar with the 6 Bladeguard veterans. Currently 6 Bladeguard cost 160 points. These 6 Bladeguard will gain the same benefits from the Gladius Task Force rules without the reroll wounds that Adrax gives them. The Judiciar does give the unit Fights First though. A big deadly melee unit with Fights First can be used to move block, charge block, or my favorite, heroically intervene into enemy units. We don't get the Fights First charge bonus when using Heroic Intervention, but the Judiciar has an ability that gives the unit Fights First, so when we Heroic Intervene, we will still get to Fights First from that ability. I did put the Honor Vehement on the Judiciar. He has a Precision Devastating Wounds melee weapon, the Honor Vehement giving him +1 attack and strength, and the Assault Doctrine, that goes up to 2 attacks and 2 strength. Now I have a unit with the Fights First ability that can take out enemy characters in melee combat. The long-range firepower for this list will come in 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts. Advance and shoot and fall back and shoot from the combat doctrines, great for a big dreadnought with guns. The cheapest of the new Primaris Dreadnoughts, I like having them lurking in my backlines, screening reserves, and taking out enemy monster vehicle units. The Ballistus Strike ability, each time this model makes a ranged attack that targets a unit that is not below half strength, you can re-roll the hit roll. This means we do not need to rely on Oath of Moment to re-roll our hits into most targets. Storm of Fire for 1 CP, giving the Ballistus anti-tank profile, ignores cover with a possible AP1, can make a big difference in shooting units in cover. It takes these from doing a few wounds to a Land Raider to doing major damage. The 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts in the list have a 2+ armor save. Armor of Contempt paired with cover makes these awful to take out. I speak from experience from shooting them with Adeptus Custodes grav tanks. If we use Armor of Contempt on our Ballistus and we have that Ballistus in cover, the enemy will need at least AP3 to get us out of our 2+ save. Then we have our Infiltator Squad. My humble home objective holder, a 12-inch Deny Reserves is very helpful for this list. Other than the Ballistus Dreadnoughts, I want to be pushing my army forward. If I have to spend a few extra points so I don't have to turn any of my units around to go defend my home objective, is points well spent. I equipped the Helix Gauntlet for a 6+ Funeral Pain. This is not really a unit I want to spend CP on. Squad Tactics for a possible D6 reactive move, or possibly Armor of Contempt. The last units I want to talk about is our 2 units of Scout Squads. These 2 units of Scouts will be important to scoring secondary points. I can infiltrate them to set up for early scoring. Against a fast melee army, we can spread out to move block most of the opponent's army. It would be the end of our Scout Squads. It can be worth it against those lists that really depend on early board control to win games. Other than move block, we want to keep these safe. In the later turns, they are very good for scoring points. Their uppy downy ability is why they are so good for scoring points. That ability is Guerrilla Tactics. At the end of your opponent's turn, if the unit is more than 6 inches away from all enemy models, you can remove this unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Such a great ability to reposition these 2 units around the board. We can even wait to see what we draw that turn before we bring them back on the battlefield. The ability does not state we need to bring them back in our turn either. We can hold on to them if there's no good places to bring them back in that turn. This was my 2000 point Meleemanders unit breakdown. Let's move on to a general game plan. Let's talk about the game plan for this list. This is a fun casual list. I don't really have a set in stone way I want to play the list. Use the Devastator Doctrine early to advance up the board and stage charges while still being able to shoot. The Assault Doctrine to advance and charge to punch some faces in turn 3. Tactical Doctrine can be used in the later turns, possibly turn 4, to fall back, only to charge back in to give out those free knuckle sandwiches. Try to set up the Judiciar unit to heroic intervene to ruin enemy charges. Since the Judiciar has the fight first ability, then that will allow the Bladeguard he is attached to fight first as well. Use the Ballistus Dreads and Infiltator Squad to screen out our home objective, then send the rest running up the board to get into glorious melee combat. The 2 units of Scouts will try to score the more hard secondary points. Vulkan, Adrax, and the Terminator units will be used to push into the mid-board, trying to get board control. Get those objectives early, make the enemy come into our punching range. This list does not need a grand game plan, just punch things and remember to have fun. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. This was a fun video and list to make. I did not have to worry about being ultra competitive. It's simply for those who are like me who want an excuse to use the Terminators, and other units we may not use as much for the Salamanders chapter. The Gladius Task Force has a lot more melee support than I first thought, a lot of utility with some ways to power them up. What do you think of my Meleemanders? We could even try a jump pack melee list. Have fun building a list. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members get early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.